Hi, and welcome back to the 6th video on building Foodstagram using Lavaca. In this video, we're going to go over some of the native functionality with the camera down here. So since we're using Cordova, we can go over their documentation to see how to use their camera plugin. So first thing it says to do is it says Cordova plugin add camera, Cordova plugin camera. So we'll go ahead and do that. So we'll cd into the Cordova directory, and then we will just run the command that they said to run. Great, now that that's installed, we will go and see how to use it. So if you look down at the documentations, they have camera.getPicture. This takes a success callback, an error callback, and some options. So let's hop over into our code and add this. Alright, so first you want to open up the home view. So we're going to close out these and open up home view. And right now we have this photo taken, so we're going to want to add that camera.getPicture with the success and the error callbacks. We basically say image, which is what it's going to return, and then do something with it. And then there's an error. So we'll go in here and say the error, and we'll just log that out. And then some options. So in their documentation, they have a bunch of different options you can pass down here with your, the quality of the image, the source type, the target width, target height, all sorts of other options you can modify. So for our use case, we're just going to set quality to 80 and the destination type to camera destination type file URI. And that's just basically going to give us back the type of file that we can put as the background image on our models. All right, so let's save that. One thing I like to do is have fallbacks for the browser, even if I'm building it as a Cordova app. So for this case, we can just do if it's window.cordova, if that exists, then do this. Otherwise, do something else. So for this test case, it's probably easiest to test in the browser with a fallback. If there's no camera and we don't actually pop up the native controls, we at least want to simulate it so that we know if what we're doing works, instead of having to build 20 or 30 times just to make sure your code works on device. So what we'll do is we'll just call this.trigger new image, and we'll create that here, and that's going to take an image. We can plop that into this as well. All right, and if there is no image, then we will set the image to just a string of a image we want to do as a placeholder. So we'll do image equals image or, and I'm just going to go into our data and pull out a random URL from here. All right, so what we're going to do is basically mock out one of these pictures. So let's go ahead and just copy one of these over. And we can use the array unshift function to put it at the very beginning. So we'll say this.model.unshift, and we'll plop in our object. All right, so we have this image here. We want to place that as our image URL. So it'll either be the Cordova image that we get back from file URI, or it will be this kind of placeholder image. We'll give it 0 likes. We don't really need a comment, but we'll say this is a placeholder comment. Then for user, since we already have the user model here, we can go ahead and access all that data. So I'm going to call user model.username and user model.profile image. All right, and that should match up with, down here we have user model dot profile image and username. All right, now let's test in browser to see if it's actually adding to our model as we expect. Let's go in here and let's put a breakpoint in trigger new image. All right, and we'll do this dot model and see what we got. Now let's do it one more time and see if that increases as we expect. It did. And it looks like we have our placeholder comment here just how we expect it. So what we'll want to do is basically go in here and re-render. So you could just do this dot render and that will re-render your home view. You can see what that looks like. So if you noticed, it added one with 0 likes at the top. Now the biggest problem with doing it this way is that if we're on this tab and we hit re-render, it's going to pop back to the initial state. So we probably want to be a little more targeted. And the way we can do that is basically trigger a custom event. So what you do is you type this.model.$trigger. If you're doing it on the view, you can type this.trigger instead of $trigger. And then name the custom event. So we'll say that this is new image. And what we want to do is on a new image, basically append it to the top and re-render just up here. So what we'll do is we'll go into the food view and basically say when the model triggers a new image, this dot on new image. All right, so we'll create on new image down here and just call this dot render on the food view as opposed to the home view. All right, so let's scroll down. We take a new photo and it scrolls back to the top with a new one with 0 likes. If we double tap it, it ups to 1 like. Now I didn't add the functionality to append it on here. So if we take a bunch of photos, it's going to append to this way, but it's not going to append up here. If you want to add that functionality, you're more than welcome to do so. I'll probably have it in the final version, but just for the time's sake, I'm not going to put that in here. So the next thing we'll probably want to do is go ahead and test on device. A couple things we want to change before we do so. I looked at the documentation. Looks like we need navigator .camera. And I'm also going to add, instead of a console.error, I'm going to alert that, just so that if there is an error, the user sees that. And we'll go ahead and save, and then we'll run grunt build. So we close out of our server and run grunt build. Build takes a few different options. You can just do grunt build and it will build for all platforms. You can also build a specific environment. So if you want to build for staging or production, you can put that in here. And then you can also specify the platform. So www or Android, or in this case, we'll build for iOS and run that. While that's running, I'm going to go ahead and open up the project. So that's going to be under your Cordova folder, under platforms, iOS, and then the Xcode project. So we'll go ahead and open that up. And now that that's done without any errors, we'll go and look at what it looks like on a simulator. All right, so it looks like our app is showing up. So we'll go ahead and hit the camera. Now if you notice on simulator, it shows no camera available. We get that alert error message. So I'm gonna hit OK on that, but I tested on device and it does show up the native camera controls and allows you to take a photo, and it appends it to the top of the list. So we're just about done with adding some native functionality. One thing that's kind of bugging me is we've got a black status bar up here with white text underneath it. So there's a quick thing you can change just by going into your resources under classes, main view controller, and then if you scroll to the bottom, you can really put it anywhere. So you just call the method for preferred status bar. So you type in preferred status bar style, this guy, and that's just going to return a UI status bar style, and we'll make that light content. All right, and if we run that again in simulator, it should be white. All right, now we do see that now it's white. So that about wraps it up for adding some native functionality. In the next video, we're just going to add some kind of final touches so that it maintains scroll position when you navigate between these two. It doesn't always jump back up to the top. And just some last minute tweaks before you're ready to kind of polish it and release it.